We have a guest. Hey everybody, if you've ever wondered about nutrients for indoor growing, you're in the right place. Tonight we're going to talk about pH, TDS, EC, ppm, all kinds of acronyms that you've probably been confused about in the past. So stick around and let's get you unconfused about all of those things. So my name is Andrew, and I'm the founder of Aero-Gro, and our job here at Aero-Gro is to help you to get better at indoor growing, get you the equipment, the supplies, the know-how, and so forth, and the feedback from the field so that you can do a better job growing whatever it is that you're growing. So tonight we're going to be talking about nutrients, and when it comes to nutrients, yes, there is a lot to know. Of course, it's like anything, but at the end of the day, not all of the things that there are to know are equally important. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover some of the things that you're likely to run into as a new indoor grower, as well as some things that are worth keeping an eye on, even if you're pretty experienced with all of this. So let's see here. I'm going to launch my Sky Cam here. And you know what, before I do that, actually, let me just talk about a few things. Here's the thing. When it comes to nutrients, it really is going to depend on what we are growing, right? So if you're growing, for example, vegetables, you're going to have a different set of instructions than I would give you if you're growing something like, let's say, cannabis. Why is that? Well, let's start from the very, very beginning. All of these plants are using a combination of metals, minerals, salts, and so forth in what is contained in your nutrient solution, and that's what they eat. So either they're going to get these nutrients from the soil outdoors, where vegetation breaks down and eventually turns into those essential elements that the plants then pull out of the soil, or we are mixing those elements. It's nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. Essentially, there are many, many trace elements that go into nutrient solution as well, but basically we're talking about nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus as the three, the NPK. Those are the three that make up the bulk of what the plants eat in any given nutrient solution, right? So what we are doing when we're adjusting the nutrients for, let's say, cannabis versus tomatoes versus peppers versus corn versus herbs versus the grass in your front yard, is we're adjusting the ratio of the N to the P to the K. And by adjusting those three base elements of your nutrient solution, we can target certain types of plants during certain phases of their growth cycle, because the amounts of each of those elements that plants use does change over time as the plants mature. It also changes based on the temperature that you're growing in, the environment. It's based on many things, but basically all what you need to know is, what are you growing? What is the recommended NPK ratio for what it is that you're growing? And you need to keep in mind that your NPK for growing in the soil is going to be a little different, or I'm sorry, the strength of the solution that you're using in the soil is going to be a little different than the strength of the solution you're using in aeroponics, hydroponics, and that sort of thing. You're actually going to use a weaker solution in aeroponics and hydroponics than you would use in the soil. But we'll get to that in a moment. Basically, the first step is to know what is the NPK ratio. I'll show you a little close up on this. What is the NPK ratio that your plants are going to require based on what you're growing? And you can find it on your package here. This one's 41838. Now this one happens to be made by a company called Master Blend, and I'm just starting to experiment with Master Blend. I have not used them before, but it comes highly recommended from one of our growers, one of our customers, and they recommend this for their vegetables. This particular customer is growing strawberries at the moment, but this is recommended for many different vegetables. 41838 is for tomatoes, peppers, all kinds of vegetables. So The NPK that we're talking about is shown right here on the front. This one's 41838, and there are many, many others. And depending on what you're growing, these three numbers will change. So one of the most important things to tell you about, though, is the fact that the NPK is not the end of the story. So, I think most people who are familiar with this at all are probably familiar with the NPK, but when it comes to growing indoors, there are a few other things that you need to know, because if you were to just mix this into some water and then call it a day, it wouldn't work very well. What actually would happen is you'd have a very incomplete nutritional profile for your plants. It would be kind of like trying to feed a human being Doritos for their entire life, right? And that's it, nothing else, just Doritos. Well, they're not going to live very long, most likely, and if they do, they're not going to be very healthy and not very happy. Well, the same thing is true for your plants. You can give them the NPK and as far as their core elements, their core-based diet, but there are many other things that have to be added to that help the plant to grow over the duration of its growing cycle, and that also do specific things like aid in the development of the stem strength and the ability to photosynthesize, and there's so many things that get controlled by the nutrition of the plant, just like nutrition with human beings, same idea. Okay, so in order to make a nutrient solution that is well balanced, you're going to be doing a couple different things. You're going to be mixing a core base powdered nutrient solution like this with a calcium nitrate additive, okay, as well as Epsom salts. So what we have here, if we look closely, and I'll get this on camera, we have a couple different things. We have, whoops, wrong camera. We need Skycam. All right, we have, now let me show you the first one first. Okay, you already saw this one. This is your base nutrients. We talked about that. That's got all the good stuff in it. If you look at the label here, there's like a bajillion things in it. And this is, mostly what your plants eat. But the second thing is the calcium nitrate, all right? Now, I am not a chemist, and I'm not going to stand here and try to explain exactly what each of these things are responsible for in their entirety. You can look up the videos from this company, and they do a really good job talking about a few of these principles on their website. But suffice to say that in order to make a balanced nutrient solution, whether it's for vegetables or for cannabis, you are going to need these three things: the core blend here, and then the calcium nitrate, and then last but not least, the Epsom salts, and this is your magnesium. So you've got your magnesium, your calcium, and your base elements, right? Okay, so what do? How do we mix these together? All right, well, let me tell you this. We're going to start by talking about water. So you can use all kinds of water. There are all kinds of water in the world. There's the water that comes from the tap. When you turn it on, it comes from the city, from the water treatment facility. There's water from a well. There's water from a bottle that's distilled. There's spring water. There's reverse osmosis water. There's, oh my God, there's deionized water. That's about the purest water of all. Why does it matter? It matters because the way that we measure the strength of our nutrient solution is by measuring the electrical conductivity of the liquid, of the nutrient solution. How electrically conductive is it? Depending on how many nutrients, how many nutrient salts and minerals and metals and so forth are in the water, that's going to make it more conductive to electricity. Electricity will flow easier. Your meter, a 5-in-1 meter like this, an EC meter, is really what you want. Not a TDS meter, we'll talk about that in a second. Not a ppm meter, TDS meter, an EC meter. I'll tell you why in a second. But the EC meter is going to measure, using two little electrical probes on the end here, the electrical conductivity of the solution based on what's in the water. that reading, that electrical conductivity reading, can then be displayed by this meter as a parts per million, ppm reading, or a TDS reading, total dissolved solids is what it's called. It's ppm or parts per thousand. Parts per thousand, parts per million. I think most of them now are showing parts per million, but the one you really want is EC. Why? All right, here's why. Because the EC is the first thing that the meter does. It measures the electrical conductivity. It's the original reading, right? Then it translates it into ppm or whatever else, right? Whatever other measurements that can be derived from the original EC. But there are different scales throughout the world. There's a 500 scale, there's a 500 scale and a 700 scale or something. There's several different scales in the world, right? And depending on which one you have, it will affect the parts per million, the TDS reading of your meter. But if you only go by the EC reading, that's true for all meters in the world. All meters in the world will measure EC the same essential way. Now, they may display it as microsiemens or millisiemens, but it's the same exact idea, same concept. So stick with EC. The rest of the world is beginning to use EC only. People are starting to move away from using those translated scales of EC. So EC is what you want. This is an EC meter. And what you do is, I'll switch this camera again. You dip it into the solution. I keep picking the wrong camera. And it will give you in microsiemens, oh yeah, put my glasses on here. Microsiemens per centimeter. It will show you, oh, let's see if I can get this on camera. Whoop, and move this a little closer here. It will show you, see if you can see that. You can see that it says 46. 46, yeah, it's going to stay on 46 there, if you can see that. 44, okay, 44, 46. It just has to be, you have to know about what it is. Now, if I were to switch this over to ppm, let's see what we've got. 22, okay? It's just a different scale. If I switch it over to salt, this is measuring the salt ppm, salt parts per million. 25, it's almost exactly the same reading as the other parts per million because it is the same thing. The only thing that changes is the word salt on the front. Salt, and then switch it over to, I skipped by it. Okay, ppm, yeah. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's basically, it's a tiny bit different, but basically it's the same reading. But the one you want to stick with is EC, which is measured in, I'm not sure if that's visible on screen, but it's measured in microsiemens per centimeter. At least this meter is. Other meters vary a little bit, but it's still the same microsiemens. That's what we're measuring. Okay, so you see that it's 38. Now, this water is not perfectly pure of absolutely everything. This is in fact reverse osmosis water from a 5-stage reverse osmosis system that we have here in the house. So when it goes through that filtration system, by the time it comes out, it's eliminated almost everything that comes out of the city water supply, except for a tiny amount, which is now measurable as 40 on the EC scale, which is just a tiny amount. Now, for example, okay, I have a little bit of distilled water still left here. Let me see, is this one clean? Yes, this is clean. Distilled water here, this is the last of it, actually. So I'm going to use this for our experiment here. But this is distilled, and I'll switch the camera again. Show you that this is going to be a little clean, well, a little more pure, let's say, put it that way, than my reverse osmosis water. This is reading 7. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, I think you can see that. 7 to 10, let's say. It's going up a little bit as it sits here, but basically about 10 on the EC scale, 10 microsiemens per centimeter. That's pretty pure. Now, why does that matter? Why do we want these low numbers? Well, again, when we go to add all the goodies here, these goodies are going to raise that number up to a certain level. And that target level is what we can all get online and talk about. Somebody can get on and say, oh yeah, I grew these killer tomatoes and my EC during the growth stage was 1500, and during the fruiting stage it was 2500. Whatever it is, we can talk about it. We have something we can refer to. That's the EC. That's the strength of your solution. That's right before you use the solution to feed your plants. You take your meter and you measure it. That's the number that we can use and we can talk about. It's the strength. It's all of this stuff combined into here and then measured, if that makes sense. All right, because all of these things that we're about to add are going to change the conductivity of this. All right, so that's why it matters. If we had water that started out at, let's say, I don't know, city water is usually like 500. Well, no, not quite that high. It's about, let's say, I believe 300 is a pretty average reading for the EC for city water, right? There's a lot of stuff in it. There's a lot of, like, you know, rust particles, and there's iron and zinc and all kinds of stuff floating around the city water. Well, that's what's making it conductive, right? So if it's around 300 on the EC scale to begin with, then if we're going for a really weak solution, let's say it's recommended that we're doing our seedlings at 800 on the EC scale, 500, let's say, even better, 500 on the EC scale. Well, we're already at 500 just with stuff that's in the water from the city. How are we going to measure what's actually in the nutrient solution if we're already starting with water that has 500 microsiemens per centimeter of who knows what in it, right? No good. So you need your water to be nice and pure. And the more pure it is, the lower that number, and the more accurately we can gauge the exact strength of our solution and exactly what's in it. Because then the only thing in it is going to be what we put into it, if that makes sense. Okay. So how do we do this? Well, this particular method, let's say, is to create a well-balanced solution. And like I said, this will be the exact same basic process whether you are mixing nutrients for vegetables or for cannabis, except that for vegetables, your NPK is going to be probably quite different, but the same process will be involved. We're going to dissolve these first, and then we're going to add them together. Now, here's something really critical about this. This is the best way to mix nutrients for hydroponics and aeroponics. Why? Because it gives you the broadest, most complete profile for the life of the plant when you mix it this way. And it's the most bioavailable or absorbable to the plants if you prepare it using this sort of method. But what I mean by that is, don't buy premix. If you buy something already in liquid form, it's not as valuable to the plants. It's not as useful to the plants. It's not as potent. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to say that. So ideally, what you want to do is prepare your nutrient solution fresh, so to speak, right before you use it. Okay, so you mix it right before you use it. That's the all-around best way, and it's the way that you can absolutely know what's in it. So this particular company recommends a ratio. It's actually written here. I'll see if I can show it to you on the label here. It's pretty small, but this one is a 2:1:2 ratio. So it's 2 parts of this base nutrients to 1 part of Epsom salts to another 2 parts of the calcium nitrate, right? So it says here, if I can find this, yeah, I can show you this here. This will probably show up. All right. So switch over here. If we look here, yeah, all right. Right here, you have instructions. It says to make 5 gallons, you add 12 grams of the master blend, right? That's the big bag here that we're holding. Then you're going to add 6 grams of the magnesium sulfate. That's the Epsom salts. So half that amount. And then you're going to add another 12 of the calcium nitrate. So it's 2 to 1 to 2, right? So your Epsom salts is the least amount of stuff that you're using in here, right? So if you want to make this easy, okay, we're going to do just, let's say, we're going to do 1 gallon, right? So in order to do 1 gallon, I'm going to divide this, right? So I actually looked it up online before, and the recommended amount for making a single gallon of this particular solution, I'm throwing them all over the place, of this master blend, is 1.2 grams of the Epsom salts and 2.4 grams of the others. So it's exactly twice the amount, right? But I don't want to show you gram scales and all that kind of fancy stuff. So there's a very easy way that you can do this and make a basic solution, which you can then adjust. And the way you do that is using just your basic kitchen tools, these guys here. And what you do, show you this on camera here, is you're going to just pick your measurements. In this case, we're going to go with, well, I'm going to make a pretty strong solution. I'm going to go with 1.25 quarts as my 2 measurements. So it's going to be base solution, half teaspoon of the base solution, 1/4 teaspoon of the Epsom salts, and then back to the half spoon for the final calcium nitrate. Okay, so it will be a half, and do be accurate with these, as accurate as possible, because really you should be doing these on a gram scale, and in a future video we can do that, but for now I didn't want to confuse you. I wanted to make it easy. So the way that you do this is that my sky cam? Where's my sky cam? There's my sky cam. All right, let me get this guy over here where we can see it. All right, now what we're going to do here, I'm going to move this water over here for a second, because we're not starting with that big vat of water. We're starting with a couple of small ones. Now, again, you don't have to have one of these. You can use a spoon, and you can just stir it with a spoon in a container, in a a little glass container you have in the kitchen. It does not matter. A couple of clean jars will work. Whatever you have around the house made out of glass and it's clean, good to go. But this guy here is a magnetic stirrer, and it's a great tool. I use it all the time. The only reason I have one is because I do so much of this. But like, again, you don't have to have it, but I do have one, so I'm going to use it. And this is just a beaker. Again, this could be a measuring cup or whatever. And then inside of here is a little coated magnet. It looks like a little pill. Basically, it does kind of look like a pill, actually. Just put it in there. It goes onto the magnet right in the middle, and then you can take some water, pour it in there, start your spinner. You'll see it spinning like that. Now in a second, it creates a little vortex there. And then we show you from this angle. There you go. Okay. So Nuggy's keeping an eye on this whole operation. How am I doing, Nugs? How am I doing, bud? How am I doing? Good. All right. So we've got our vortex action there. Now we're just going to take a half a teaspoon. And again, this is going to be a fairly strong solution. Take a half. Bloop. That's the calcium nitrate. Okay. Let that go for a sec. Put that to the side. Don't get yourself confused. Stick this over to the side. Then we're going to get, in a second here, after this dissolves, we're going to get our base solution. And we're going to do the same thing, but in a different jar. In fact, I've got some water right over here. I can just use that for our next one. Okay. That's looking pretty good. Yeah, it's about dissolved. You know what? We'll just go with that. I'll stick that to the side for a second. I'll check it again in a moment. Now I'm going to put this on. Whoops. Yeah, I'm going to turn that off. Actually, that's a pro tip there. Usually you do have to turn it off to get that magnet to center. Yeah, now you turn it back on. Okay. But again, you could just be stirring this with a clean spoon. But I want to tell you something. The whole reason we're mixing this separately is because you're trying to prevent something known as nutrient lockout. Okay? And what happens is if you mix these in the wrong order, they bind to each other and they are unable to be absorbed by the plant. Okay? You don't want that. You want all these things to be absorbed by the plant. First step in assuring that is mix these three things separately first in water, each of them individually. The second rule is add your master blend and your Epsom salts together, and then add the calcium nitrate to the first two. And I'll show you that in a second. So now we are going to do our master blend, and we're going to do a ½ teaspoon of that as well. And then we'll see that this has a little bit of a color to it. Okay, just like that. So there's a little bit of a yellow, kind of a yellowish color, I guess you could say. And that mixes pretty easily, actually. There we go. Put that to the side. Okay, and we got our base form. Whoops, stick this aside. We got our base formula. We've got our calcium nitrate, and now we're going to take our Epsom salts. And no, this is not going to be a foot bath. This is going to be nutrient solution. But yes, it is the same stuff you would use in your foot bath or your bathtub, or for your sprained ankle or what have you. It is the same Epsom salts. It is magnesium sulfate. That is what it actually is. Epsom salts is like a trade name or something. Okay, add some water to this. By the way, the reverse osmosis water, which measured like 40, I think, on the scale or something, that's okay. It does mean my filters need to be changed. Usually that's around 20 on the EC scale. And once it gets up to be about 40, I know I have to change the filters, because that means a whole bunch of stuff is sneaking by the filters. Okay, now, again, this is the smallest amount of any of the three things we've used. This is the Epsom salts, and this is just a quarter teaspoon versus a ½ teaspoon. ½ teaspoon for the other two things, and a quarter teaspoon for the Epsom salts. Boop. Like that. And it's really fast. It dissolves very quickly. All right. Then we can, like I said, you have to be very specific in the order that these are mixed. Again, I'm going to mix this one a little bit more because I see there are some granules on the bottom. Also, you don't want to mix them together until you are sure that they have completely dissolved, each of them unto themselves. Okay, this is pretty close. I just need a few more moments on that and we will be good to go. And this, yeah, that's dissolved. Yep. There we go. Yep. Good. Yep. Good, good, good. And we're going to add. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty dissolved. Let me check it though. And there are a few little granules in there. When I hold it up to the light, I can see that there are a few little granules in there. But okay. For the purpose of the demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and put this back. All right. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and add to my base solution. I'm going to add my Epsom salt. Okay. This is the Epsom salts. Going in and whoa. Okay. My magnet came loose. Come on. Magnet came loose there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let's see, I ran out of space in my jar here, so I'm going to pour about half into here, and then I'm going to pour, finally, and this is just because I ran out of space, I'm going to pour the calcium nitrate rather, into the premix of the base solution and the Epsom salts. And then finally, I'll just mix these together a little bit like that. That's fine. And now everything's fine. As long as you mix the base solution and the magnesium sulfate, the Epsom salts. Okay, now I'm going to add it to my clean water. This is the reverse osmosis water. Add all of them there and just mix between the two jars there. Now, I'm going to take this, going to put it back on here, and I'm going to take a magnet, and I'm going to drop it in there, and hopefully I'll hit the middle here. We'll see. Tweak. Whoops. No, I didn't quite hit it. Oh, shoot. All right, I'll take my spoon here. There we go. Okay. Now, I just want to mix it for a second here, and then we're going to take a reading. And I honestly don't know what this is going to be. It's a pretty strong solution, but I don't know what it's going to be because it's a little bit over an actual gallon, and it's a little stronger than I normally would make it. But as long as it's 2 to 1 to 2, you're fine. And as long as you mix them in the correct order with the calcium nitrate last, that's fine. So, all right, here we go. Turn this off and going to... Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty close. Yeah, that's all, just about 1900 it looks like. Whoops. Oh, let me show that on the camera. Sorry. Get this a little closer here. This is showing 1900 microsiemens per, get my light back on, 1900 microsiemens per centimeter. And I was going for, usually I'm aiming for right around 2000. That's my normal solution for, right around a gallon. So that's pretty good. That was pretty much right on the target. Now, if I was growing seedlings, for example, I wouldn't want to use this like this. I'd want to dilute this about 1 to 4. I want a much weaker solution for seedlings. If I was growing herbs, I would want much weaker than this. I'd have to dilute it. I'd want for herbs probably 5 to 800, 800 to 1,000 for certain other herbs. Ooh, yeah, it'd be pretty heavy. Right around 500 usually for the lighter herbs, basil and stuff like that. So it really depends. And I mean, everybody has a different opinion on that as far as the brand names of nutrient solutions and the strengths. But I will tell you this, this company has it figured out as far as nutrients that are very high quality that will not clog your spray nozzles. And this is an important concern in aeroponics and hydroponics because your tiny little spray nozzles are very easy to clog. And if you have anything in your solution that starts binding together or clumping or anything like that, that can cause a problem where it'll clog up your spray heads and that can damage or kill your plants. So you do want to look out for that. And this company makes a really good product and really good reviews, and I'm waiting to see how it works out. I just started testing it. So if it works out really well, I will definitely let you know. Okay. Okay, so let's review. You start with clean water. You mix your 3 different components here to make your cross section, your well-balanced solution. And it's a, oops, wrong order. Okay, whoop. Yeah, like that. It is a 2. Is this even on camera? Wait, I mean, it is a, yeah, you can see that. The 2 to 1 to 2 ratio. And you can use common kitchen implements to measure it, or you can follow the directions on the bag. You have to mix them together in the correct ratio. We covered that. And then you need to measure the strength of it once you're finished. And finally, last but not least, this is very important, measure the pH. Here's what happens. You want, depending on what you're growing again, it's usually around 6.5, anywhere from 5.5 to 6.5 is the range for hydroponics and aeroponics for pH of your solution. That's right before it goes to the plant. It should be 5.5 to 6.5 depending on what you're growing. All right. So the water out of my reverse osmosis tends to be up around 7.5 to 8 when you start, but then you add the nutrients to it and it drops the pH. It becomes more acidic. The number goes down, and it may go down as low as 4, 5, and then you need to bring it back up. That's the last step. And if it's, like, say 4 or 5, you need to bring it up to 6, more or less, somewhere in there, depending on what you're growing. I always target right around 6. That's usually my target. So based on what I usually grow. So let's see what we have here. Put my glasses back on here. We have a pH right now, and I'll get this on camera for you. We have a pH right now. Put it in pH mode, first of all. I hit this bottom button until I'm in pH mode. Put it in the water. Let it settle a little bit. Oh, that's not bad. Yeah, it's a little bit low. We're going to bring that up. It is right around 5.5, 5.6 right now. And that number, that's very normal for it to drift a little bit. The water itself is moving, so of course the reading is going to move a little bit. Okay, so let's bring that up a little bit. I'm going to turn the spinner back on here. Boop, here we go. Oh shoot, I have 2 magnets in there. Yeah. Let's take the second one out. We only need one. Nuggy, don't eat that. All right. So we're going to measure that again. I just turned it off. Jeez. All right, turn that back on, and we're going to measure that. We're going to bring that up just a little bit. pH up. Now, in a gallon of water like this, I just know from experience about how much it should take. I'm going to be careful here on camera, though, because it could go wrong. Let's see here. Let me try it with just a few drops. All right, now let me just see what happens here. Now, I don't want to dip the meter in yet. I want to mix a little bit because I don't want to be dipping the meter into a really strong alkaline, the solution that I just put in there, the pH up. Okay, there we go. We're getting up there. 5.8. Yeah, now I'm just going to put a few more drops. We're pretty close now, though. Like that. Oh, I think that did it. That was a little too much. That's probably going to be about right, though. We'll see. I might have overshot it a little bit. We'll see. Let it spin a little bit. By the way, my assistant here, his name is Nuggy. He's my boy, one of our kitties. All right. Yeah, I did overshoot just a wee bit. We've got 6.1 basically. Yeah, 6.1. That's pretty good, although I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I'm going to put just a few drops of pH down because I actually want it to be right around 6. No, Nuggy, that's not your water dish, dude. All right. That is not your one. No, you are going to eat the magnet. Here, give me that. Jeez. All right. Put a couple of drops in there. That should do it. Let's see what happens. Let that settle, and here we go. Oh no, I went too far. I don't know. Now it's coming back up. Yeah, I dipped it into a little bit of a cloud there. That's what can happen. Nuggy, what are you doing? Oh my gosh, Nugs. Now it's gone. All right, now it's gone. Looks like it might have gone a little too far. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust it a little more here. Whoops. Yeah, I don't want to dip that in there. Let it settle. Hey, dude. Hey, come here. All right. There we go. 5.9. There we go. Now we're cooking. Yeah, 6.0, 597, 6.0. Yeah, we're there. Totally. I'll show you this. There we go. 5.8 and 5.9. Yeah, we're there. 6.0 is what our target was. Definitely that's close enough. Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. All right. So now go back here. Yep. And that, as they say, is that. So here's what you need to know. Your quality and broad spectrum, broad profile of nutrients is very important. The order that you mix them is very important. And the pH is very important, and the water quality, so that you can determine each of those things. Very important to start with the quality water that's very pure. And those are the things you need to pay attention to. And if you do that, just pay attention to those few things, it's very likely that you'll nail it pretty much every time. There is variability, there's flexibility there. You don't have to be absolutely laboratory precise with this. If it says, let's say, for example, somebody says you want to be growing this or that with an EC of 750, and you are growing it just fine at 600, then that's fine. Other people might be growing just fine at 900 EC. So it really depends. It depends on the temperature where you're growing, the environment where you're growing, the species, the variety that you're growing, all kinds of factors. But you need to be within the range. So as long as you can do that, you're going to be just fine. But if you do need extra help, don't be afraid to reach out to me. I'm here to help you. And I'll make more of these videos and cover more of this type of thing. If you want me to, just let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe. Don't forget to do that. And during this next week, until I see you again, I want you to go out there and grow something using this really good gold juice that we just made here. It's good stuff. And again, if you want to grow like killer tomatoes and peppers and stuff like that as well, this is the same way you'll make it. It'll just be stronger. The solution will be stronger. Okay. And look up online for that stuff. Also, in the description for this video, I've included some links to some helpful charts that'll help you determine EC, things like EC, how to convert EC values on your meter, depending on what kind of meter you have, some recommended EC and pH values for different things that you might be growing. I give you a chart for that. So check it out in the description. There are some things there to be really useful for you. Download them, print them, and go grow something. All right? Till I see you next time, have fun, and let me know how I can help you. All right, take care. Thanks for watching.